Let's say you're a newcomer to this, and you're wondering, how's it done? How am I, somebody who eats meat every day of my life, going to start cutting back? Well, let's just say you were a smoker, smoking every day of your life, and you decided that you want to try to kick the habit. Are you going to, for example, try to go cold turkey? Probably not. We all know that's not going to be a very successful way, most likely. You're probably going to use something more like this. It's going to help you satisfy your nicotine craving while at the same time moving away from tobacco. So, how do we help you join the Meatless Monday movement? Similarly, just like kicking the smoking habit, when you're trying to kick the meat habit, rather than buying Tyson's chicken nuggets, instead, you can try to buy Gardein or Trader Joe's chicken-free nuggets. All the taste, all the protein, less fat, less cruelty, less water usage, less climate change. Instead of a hamburger, you can try a delicious veggie burger. Instead of a hot dog, you can try a delicious veggie dog. Or you can do something truly radical. You can do something that many Americans are going to cringe at doing. You can do something that people hate doing in our country. You can actually eat vegetables. They're good for you. They taste great. They'll elongate your life. They'll reduce your risk of all types of cancers and heart disease, type 2 diabetes. And you can try them in ethnic dishes. You can try them in bean and rice burritos, in a nice pasta primavera, hearty 3-bean chili. The list is endless. You can try a Kung Pao tofu. If you want recipes, go to humanesociety.org/recipes. Thousands or hundreds of free, great vegan recipes. You can sign up and get a vegan recipe emailed to you every single Friday, or it can be texted to you. And that way, you'll be ready for your Meatless Monday that weekend. You can go out and get all your ingredients for your big Meatless Monday. Or even if you're already a diehard vegan, you can still sign up and get a free recipe. This is a nice little reminder. You can share them with your friends. Whether you eat in or whether you eat out, for example, if you're going to Burger King, touting veggie burger. There's a photo I took in the Orlando airport. This big billboard advertising the BK Veggie, a delicious combo of real veggies, brown rice, and raw oats. Or if you're going to Chipotle, which says vegans and carnivores unite. Try our new braised tofu sofritas at select Chipotle locations. That is the type of unity I'd like to see. Vegans and carnivores all getting together to eat vegan food. That sounds like pretty awesome unity to me. Count me in. I'm totally there. This is why Time Magazine is talking about both the meatless and the less meat revolution. Because Americans are cutting back on our meat consumption. We're eating less meat per person. That does not mean that Americans are becoming vegetarians and vegans overnight. In fact, the percentage of Americans who are vegetarian or vegan is still relatively low, but the percentage of Americans who are cutting back on their meat consumption is high, and it's getting higher. And that's why we see the number of farm animals, and I'll talk about this more tomorrow night, but the number of farm animals being raised and killed for food is actually declining in our country by hundreds of millions. Hundreds of millions of fewer animals being subjected to the miseries of factory farming and slaughter plants because people are eating less meat. This is why it's so imperative for our movement to embrace reduction strategies like Meatless Mondays, because it is an effective tool to help people move in the right direction, to take better steps to lead a healthier, more ecologically sustainable, and more humane life. Our movement has come such a long way. We've come such a long way from the days, like I said, when I became a vegan, people didn't even know what the word meant, let alone how to pronounce it. Yet today, as impressive as the steps that we've taken are, to see the environmental movement embracing this meat reduction strategy as a way of helping the planet, to see the animal movement starting to succeed at lowering the number of animals who are being raised and killed for food, as impressive as those steps that we've taken are, we still have a painfully long way to go. Let's not delude ourselves. The fact is that we still have 9 billion animals being raised and killed for food in our country, just land animals alone, every year. Let's not delude ourselves, because still 9 out of 10 egg-laying hens are in battery cages, 8 out of 10 breeding pigs are still in gestation crates, and we still have some calves in veal crates even in our country. All of this is a sobering reminder that yes, we've made important progress, deep progress, in mainstreaming the issue of eating less meat. But we have a very long way to go, and none of this progress is self-executing. It happens only because committed people like you get off of the sidelines, get onto the field, and start playing the game to help save animals and save our planet. That's what this is really all about. Because again, telling this guy, this patient, to walk 15 minutes a day, we know that that is a prescription that is doomed to failure. We need to have serious discussions about climate change and animal cruelty. And the only logical conclusion, the only logical prescription to come about from those conversations is that we as a society have to eat less meat and more plants. That's the conclusion that we have to be. So, a lot of people think it may seem impossible. A lot of people will think, we're just too addicted to meat, we're not going to be able to change. But a lot of things may have seemed impossible. It may have seemed impossible for somebody who was in prison for nearly 3 decades to come out and become president of his country, and yet that's exactly what Nelson Mandela did. And it was Mandela who said, it always seems impossible until it's done. There are so many things that would have seemed impossible just 2 decades ago that are now happening. Just think about it with regard to some of the things that we are talking about tonight. To see the former president and vice president of the United States both being vegans. To see environmental groups touting the benefits of eating less meat. To see vegan becoming so mainstream that major restaurant chains are doing billboards and advertisements for their vegan options. Let's not think about that. Let's think about other social justice issues. 100 years ago, most of you in this room tonight wouldn't even be able to vote. In fact, not only would you not be able to vote, but in the Congress, when they were debating suffrage 100 years ago, one of the things, if you read the transcripts of the debate, as I've done, that they said, one of the things that an actual member of the U.S. Congress said on the floor was that if we allowed women to hold office, that you guys would be so irrational that once a month we'd have to adjourn Congress because you wouldn't be able to rationally deliberate on the matters pending before the body. That was legitimate debate on the floor of the Congress 100 years ago. 50 years ago, it was legitimate social debate in our country as to whether whites and blacks could share the same swimming pool. 20 years ago, do you think any of you would have predicted that within 20 years that we would have marriage equality throughout our entire country? 10 years ago, would you have predicted that? 5 years ago, would you have predicted every state in the Union would allow same-sex marriage, and yet in a couple months, that's the most likely outcome that we're going to have? 20 years ago in Ireland, it was a crime not just to get married as gays, to be gay. To be gay was a crime in Ireland 20 years ago. And this week, Irish voters 2-1 voted to make their country the first to vote in same-sex marriage equality on a national basis. The world can change. What seemed impossible eventually ends up seeming inevitable. And we look back and think of these types of social progress as if they were just happening in some type of a self-executing way, but that's not the way that it works. It never happens in a self-executing way. It only happens because, like I said, people like you get out there and make it happen. Each one of us is an ambassador for animals and for the planet. The planet can't defend itself, and animals certainly can't defend themselves. They want you to be their voice. You are a voice for the voiceless. Being a part of this movement is about taking the side of the vulnerable against the cruelty of the powerful. It's about shining that bright spotlight on this dark and hidden world of animal abuse that has remained obscured from the American public. And like the Colorado River, they're diverting it and all that. And I mean, it's terrible. It's a big environmental nightmare to do it all. But a lot of people in California who I'm talking with are looking to sell their homes. They think that their property value will decline so much in the coming years because of the water crisis, they want to get out now. In fact, I was talking to a couple just last week. I was in LA, and they were telling me they want to sell their house, and guess what they said they want to move? You guys better get ready for your big influx. All right. Yes, sir.
My dad is a farmer in Idaho, and he's telling me about the water, and he said that a lot of times when they had a bunch of water before they started drilling for all of these circular irrigation systems,
Yeah.
he said we used to have a lot of water. Now that the water table is dropping and they don't have the surface water anymore, there's a big fight between those that are drilling for water to do that, and a big fight for those. Everybody's saying, I've got rights to water. But the people that are drilling for it are getting the water because it's lower, and that's where the water is.
Yeah, it's such a terrible problem. I mean, the fact is that there are more water rights than there are water now, especially out in the West. And I mean, to be frank, a lot of people who study this very closely think that the wars of the past were about oil and the wars of the future will be about water. That's happening all over the world. Huge water, I mean, big water problems in the Middle East. The Dead Sea, in fact, is literally dying. I mean, the Dead Sea won't be there in half a century if we don't do anything, because we just keep subtracting from it, because we have more and more humans on the planet, which means more and more drinkers, and especially drinkers of water, that is, and more consumers of water via animal products. And so one of the most important things that we can do as our human population grows is to reduce our reliance on animal products. Yes?
Well, I had one more comment. I just finished vegan culinary school.
Good for you.
I called my dad and I called the pastor of my old church in Idaho. I said, I'd be willing to come back and show everybody how they can eat this way.
Yeah.
And I'd love to do that.
You could show us tonight, man. Did you bring your stuff?
I said, you've got a big, beautiful commercial kitchen there. Let me come in and show you how to make a raw vegan lasagna and a chocolate raspberry ganache cake.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
I said, let me show you how to do that. He said, that'd be great, Rob, but then you're heading back to Portland. I would have to clean up the mess. I didn't even know how to come back to that.
Yeah, all right. Well, I appreciate that you went to vegan culinary school. We would appreciate it more had you maybe had some demonstration for us. Any of the products that you're describing here. But that's cool. Good for you, man. All right, yes.
You had that graph where meat consumption had gone down, but were you calling meat consumption just beef and pork?
No.
Are you including chicken in there?
Yes, so that's a chart that shows all land animal consumption in the U.S. by pounds. So in 2007, it was about 220 pounds a person in the U.S. of land animal consumption, and now it's about 200 pounds. So a drop of about 10% in land animal consumption. And as I'll talk about tomorrow night as well, aquatic animal consumption is also going down. So we don't count, we meaning the U.S. government doesn't count aquatic animals in individuals, they only count pounds. But per capita pound consumption of aquatic animals is also dropping. So you see land animal consumption and aquatic animal consumption going down. Fluid milk consumption is plummeting down as well. Cheese consumption, not so much. Egg consumption was going down for a while. It's stabilized a bit right now. But bird flu is decimating the egg industry right now. Tens of millions of birds have died in the last few weeks, or really been killed in the last few weeks because of bird flu, which means egg prices are soaring, and there's just a lot fewer eggs, and so which probably means that per capita egg consumption will also go down as a result. But overall, the trends are pretty positive on this in terms of going down in the United States. Globally, it's the opposite. China, India, Brazil, nations that are on the ascent, you see per capita consumption increasing. This is why it's so important for U.S. agricultural policy to not export the problems that we've caused. Right now, we have an ag policy that helps promote the expansion of factory farming across the world, which is the exact opposite of the policies that we should be having. But we can lead by example here. Even though China's meat consumption has skyrocketed in the last decade, they still don't even eat half of the meat that we eat on a per-person basis here in the United States. So if we want to wag our fingers at people in China or India or Brazil and say, you guys shouldn't be eating so much meat, we got to make sure we remember when we point our finger outward, you got 3 pointing right back at ourselves. And we are still, even with a 10% decline in per capita meat consumption in our country, we're still on top of the world when it comes to per capita. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, Carl. So for a variety of reasons, it's actually the way that they measured it, the U.S. really is number one. But yeah, U.S., Western Europe, big meat consumers. My man in the migration shirt, I was going to comment on how much I love your shirt. I'm a big bird fan, and love your shirt. I'm a big bird fan, too. I love Big Bird. Yeah.
This morning I spoke I joined a group and spoke to them about the second elephant in the room is what I called my little talk. And I had already primed them on cowspiracy and urging them to get with that. And they did remember that I said it. I don't think any of them pursued it. But I said the second elephant. I had just finished reading a whole magazine devoted to the second elephant in the room, which is population immigration.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether you read the Oregonian, but the Myanmar and the reason that scientists and whatever don't talk about it is because it's a hot issue.
It's like a third rail issue to discuss it.
A women's rights issue.
Well, the interesting thing about this, so I mean, clearly, human population is skyrocketing and the planet is not getting bigger. So those are just facts. But one of the interesting things is that there are several 100 million women in the world right now who want to have access to family planning, who don't have access to it. They want to have fewer kids, and they want the kids who they do have to have better lives, because having really high birth rates generally means less care per child. And so there are hundreds of millions of women who, for a variety of reasons, whether through lack of access, lack of finances, social stigma in their country or whatever, don't have access to be able to use contraceptives or whatever. And that seems like the lowest hanging fruit, helping those women in the developing world to have fewer kids, because which is what they want. And so here in the U.S., we already have relatively low birth rates. We have very high consumption rates per person, huge consumption rates, but relatively low birth rates compared to places, for example, like in Africa and in other developing parts of the world where birth rates are much higher. But population is a big part of it, but consumption on a per person basis is a very huge factor.
We're below replacement rate in this country, except for immigration.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, at the same time, one Westerner, from a consumption perspective, is generally worth maybe 10 or more people, like in Bangladesh, for example. But anyway, it's an important point, and I'm glad you bring it up. Yes?
So now I'm going to ask if that was you on another thing. Was that your
good?
article in the Sacramento Bee?
Yes.
I thought so.
That's nice of you. Why don't you tell people what it was? Stand up. Tell people. This is a great one. Yeah.
I saw it on Facebook. It was a great article with a lot of the same points you made tonight that was in the Sacramento Bee, and it addressed exporting alfalfa and feed to, which is essentially exporting California's water to China. And the importance for the government to take some action, and also about how we can each individually change it by what's on our plate. And so my question is, that's great that was in the Sacramento Bee, right, in the capital of California.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, when you were here, did you get any stories to the Oregonian? And have you ever written to NPR? Their coverage of the whole thing with the almond bee.
Oh, don't get me started. What's your name?
My name is Karen Brompton.
Karen?
Yes.
Cool, thanks. First of all, thanks for reading it. Yeah, I did publish a piece in the Sacramento Bee on this topic a month ago or so. And I have not submitted something to the Oregonian, though I should, for sure, on this. It's, the drought is very visceral for them in Sacramento, so that's why I went there. But I should do that, you're right, and I will. With NPR, actually, I have been on a number of times talking about this, but I've also emailed a number of reporters who cover this, and it's like, I don't know why the almond industry isn't fighting back, I mean, it's crazy. It's truly crazy. I mean, if you look at cow's milk, it's far more water intensive it's more water intensive than almond milk, and way more water intensive than soy milk. you save 850 gallons of water by buying a gallon of soy milk compared to cow's milk. I mean, it's insane. So, you look at that and it's like, man, these almonds are like the whipping boys of the drought problem when, nuts are a thirsty crop. Walnuts even more than almonds. There's no getting around that. But at the same time, you can't ignore California's 2 million dairy cows.
They're so happy.
Yes, right. They're so happy, right, exactly. You can't ignore 2 million dairy cows or 15 million egg-laying chickens.
Even if almonds were the same as dairy, which they're not, how much do people consume of milk a day or dairy, and how much do they consume of almonds? I mean,
Right.
if I decided to cut down on my almond use, I'm really not going to be saving very much water.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a good point, too. Well, thanks, Karen. That's great of you to bring that up. I appreciate it. Yes, you want to bring up something I've done that was cool also? Feel free to.
No, I just had a comment.
All right.
It might not be very welcome.
Great, I'm ready. I'm eager. Tell me why I
I would
suck.
encourage anyone, if they're having trouble giving up meat, or they know anyone who's having trouble giving up meat, to visit a slaughterhouse.
We welcome your
There's no
comment.
other
That's a good
reason
one.
you can
I was
go.
waiting for you to tell me why I suck. I was not. Yeah, sure. Good idea.
I highly recommend it.
Yes, sir.
I really enjoyed the slides of the variety of angles people are going about finding a reduction in meat.
Thank you.
A couple that I've heard about.
It sounded like you were going to have like a butt, and so I'm glad I answered it. I now realize it's an and, not a but. All right. Like, I really enjoyed these slides, but these ones are weak. No, all right. In addition, yes.
My understanding is the LA area, the school system in LA has a meatless Monday. There's no meat served in schools in LA. The first school district to do so. And that would be a great thing to continue to roll over into other large cities.
Dude, what's your name?
Mark.
Mark, you got to come tomorrow night, bro, because we're gonna be all up on LA on that. All right, so
Can I mention one other?
please, yes.
Kaiser Permanente in 2012.
Mark, I got to have some material for my slides tomorrow night. No, give him a preview, Mark. We talk about this tomorrow night too, but yeah, give him a preview, man.
Kaiser across the board recommends a plant-based diet.
Totally.
And they have brochures you can get online and find if anyone can search this.
Yeah. I'm so glad you hit these, Mark, for a couple reasons. First and foremost, so tonight, I'm talking mainly about climate and water and the environment and all that. But tomorrow night, we'll be hitting all that. But here's the thing. One, you're 100% right. LA Unified School District, 650,000 meals every single day, every single weekday during the school year. And now on Mondays, after working with HSUS, they've implemented entirely vegetarian meatless Mondays. Every single Monday. They weren't the first school district to do it, but they are the biggest, and they are one of dozens across the country who we've worked with. In fact, in Dallas, we helped them implement Lean and Green Mondays, where they're promoting plant-based eating on Mondays. And guess what? They've now replaced all ground beef every day of the week in Dallas School District, all the public schools there, with Beyond Meat crumbles. Every day of the week, not just Mondays. In Detroit, we helped them implement Meatless Monday in the Detroit public school system. They liked it so much and they were saving so much money that they're now doing it 2 days a week, all meatless, in Detroit. Kaiser Permanente, huge health insurer, they know that to keep people healthier, they should be recommending plant-based diets, and they have a whole program to help their clients choose plant-based eating. It's truly phenomenal and truly a marker of the progress that our movement is making. And that is a brief little preview for tomorrow night, which I hope you'll come to. Yes?
So, thinking about global demand for animal products, in his book Countdown, Alan Weissman predicts...
Cool, man. I was like this close to mentioning that one on the
there
earlier
are
thing.
a lot of people dancing around themes in that book.
Yeah.
Well, in his book, he predicts that he advocates for people to eat fewer animal products to conserve water and to help with the burgeoning population situation on Earth. But he predicts that a lower demand for animal products in the United States and the Western world in general.
But I like Alan Weissman a lot, and I think that any time that you have a reduction in demand for any product, especially an agricultural product, that prices will come down, and that could help increase sales. But it could happen with anything. I mean, tobacco is way down in our country, And that means that tobacco prices go down, but then, we tax it in a lot of venues so that tobacco is more expensive. And you can see certain strategies like that happening on this. I mean, it'd be impossible 25 years ago to think about the types of tobacco taxes that are now routine in our country and think about what's impossible now and what that may be like in the future on these types of issues. All at the same time, we have to start somewhere. And I'm a firm believer that there's going to be very important technological advances that are going to help us with this quite a lot. That products like Beyond Meat, like Hampton Creek, that are going to only get cheaper and cheaper, and that will actually outcompete the animal products, will be a great way of helping free animals from the bondage that they're now suffering.